Evening and welcome everybody to the Game Day registration session. I hope everyone's staying safe and navigating their way through these interesting times the best they can. This session was, we had planned to host at our annual conference, which unfortunately has been cancelled, as you know. So we hope that we can get as much learnings out of the online session as much as it would be as face-to-face. So can everyone hear me? Can someone put their hand up or just say yes for me, please?
Yes, Beck.
Thank you. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we gather tonight and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this workshop. I pay my respects to elders past and present and recognise and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal people. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. As you would have seen the screen that was up before we started this meeting, if everyone could keep their microphones muted until the end, if we do happen to have a chat session. We have a very large number jumping online. I think we're up to about 109 at the moment. So if we can also keep our cameras turned off, that will definitely help with the streaming of the session. If you haven't already, head over to the view function and put it in speaker view. This is going to give you the best view of the presentation that Rory from GameDay will be walking us through tonight. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat function. We're expecting to get quite a lot of questions by the end of the session, and we probably won't get through them all. So we will address these questions tomorrow and organise that FAQ sheet with Rory from GameDay, with Trish Bright, who looks after our registration and so on. So we will answer everything. And if you do have questions at the end of the session that you didn't think about tonight and pop it in the chat, send us through an email. Just to also let you know, this is being recorded and it will be available at a later date. So I welcome Rory from GameDay. Thanks for jumping on, Rory. And I'm going to hand over to Rory and he's going to walk us through the presentation.
No worries. Thanks, Beck. And yeah, good to see everyone out. I hope everyone's having a good evening. We won't take up a hell of a lot of time today. It'll probably end around 7:30. We'll aim for that sort of time frame. But as Beck said, once you've, if you've got any questions, if you can put those in the chat, we can try and address those as we go. So just to share my screen at the moment, hopefully everyone can see that. Is that coming through all right?
Yes, it is, Rory.
Perfect. So today's session, just so people know, won't be too much background about GameDay as such. Hopefully you were at the Monday session that Cam from our team ran. But basically to give you a little bit of an overview, Little Athletics New South Wales this season is going on to a completely new membership and registrations platform and events for that matter. So we are the same organisation that did the old platform, but it's a completely new platform. So this session is going to be mainly geared towards showing you how to run through the products and form setup process. I'll get into a little bit of membership as well and show you sort of the end-to-end process as far as how you get your forms working and how you get your products and fees online, so that you're ready to take your registrations, and then sort of that end-to-end process right through to the point where the member comes through to the database. So that'll be sort of a high-level overview of what we're looking at. To give you a little bit of a snapshot of the navigation of the platform, you can see here this is where you'll land as soon as you log into the platform. What I'm doing here, just to note, I'm in a sample Little Athletics Centre that we've created with some dummy data and mocked up the replication of the live form. So this is not using any live data or anything like that. What we've got on the front page is, you'll see over on the left-hand side, we've got all the key modules and the key pillars that you'll use throughout GameDay. So things like my organisation, get your organisation details sorted, your admins and contacts, so managing who gets access to your database. manage your finances, and a bit of housekeeping like check the hierarchy and some financial settings as well. I won't delve too much into that, but as Beck sort of alluded to, we'll have some resources to send around after the session, including any answers to any questions that we don't get to today. So that'll include things like links to the e-learning modules that we've put together. So if there's anything that, if you're getting an information overload, there's anything you want to brush up on, then we'll be able to send around our guided e-learning modules for everyone to do to get that foundation of knowledge. So the membership section, obviously that's where you're going to manage your membership base. I'll touch on that a little bit towards the end of this session. But the main thing is for today, the products and forms. So you can manage products and forms through there, as well as clearances and communication templates and things like that. Products and forms we'll get into, so I'll skip that for now. And then the events section as well, which if anyone's not registered for this Friday session, I'd encourage you to sign up for that one as well, because that's where we'll be going through the events portal and the events setup system. So that's sort of a separate session in itself, I guess. They're more self-contained and separate to products and forms to a degree. And then reports as well. So running reports, exporting reports to Excel, all the things you could do in the old system, plus some more visual representation of data. So you'll see this big graph in the middle in the container. That's just a representation of high-level numbers, how many active members you've got, what are your transaction numbers, breakdowns by gender and age group, and that sort of thing. So the more data that you obviously put through the system, the more that will fill out and start to become really insightful for you. Along the top here, we can jump straight to create certain assets. So you can see if we want to create a form, a question, an event, or an email template, we can jump straight there from the home page. We've got a global search option. So if you've got a member that you want to search for, just type in their name into the search bar. You'll be able to search for them there. These icons along the top here. This will go through to our GameDay community page. So I won't go too far into this, but basically what this is a way that you can keep up to date with product updates and what's going on across the business and across GameDay. And what you can do is join now. And if you join through to that, that'll link through to a Rego form, and that'll put you onto the GameDay community list, where you're on the mailing list and you'll get access to all these benefits. So I encourage you to have a look at that in your own time. And what you can also do is you can open a help widget. So the help widget's going to be a really handy resource particularly when you're setting up and when you're trying to do your day-to-day operations through the system. What you can do here is you can search for an article. So let's say you're trying to add a member. We'll type in add member. This list here, the search results, that'll bring up a list of suggested articles that you can take a look at. So that's going to have step-by-step processes in whatever topic it is that you're trying to do. So that'll just pop up in the container on the side. You can keep going about your business here and then just refer to that as you need to. And you can also submit a request. So submitting a request, we'll put in a support ticket. So you put in your subject line, any details of what the issue is or the question is, the query, and then just your contact details so that we can get in touch with you. And so that goes through to our support center, and we've got the times of operation available there. And just along in the top corner here, just some general sort of housekeeping stuff. Check your account details. Check for product updates through to our GameDay community page again. Our online learning, which I alluded to earlier, we'll send out a link to register for that, but you've got a link handy there where you can log into the online learning, and that'll set you up with some guided tutorials. And then obviously you can log out as well. So as I said, the crux of this evening's session is going to be how to manage your products and forms. So you'll notice obviously a few differences to the old platform straight away. You've got the options along the top to manage your own forms, your own products. So those are your fees, your own questions. So any custom questions that you want to add to the forms, and that there's no limit on that. Again, that's another difference. You can have as many really there as you want. And a form display template, which basically allows you to change the look and feel to a certain degree of the front end form. So changing things like the colors of the progress bars and that sort of thing, which will display there in the preview panel. So you can play around with that as well. It is branded with New South Wales, Little Athletics New South Wales branding, but the color scheme and that sort of thing, which you can check desktop and mobile versions of, there is a degree of customization there as well. So what I'll do is we've mocked up a bit of a form here. The form is going to be where you do most of your work in terms of getting your fees live and configuring what questions you want to show. So what will happen is there's already a state level form that's been created, and that's being shared down to all centers. So when you log into your center on this page here, you'll already see a form. So you don't need to build anything from scratch. All you need to do is edit, and that will take you through to the form builder. So this is the back-end form builder. On the first page, what you'll see is just a couple of title pages. So the title of form as opposed to the internal form name. What this is you can see it there, this is displayed publicly. So you want that to be nice and tidy. And then the internal form name can really be whatever you want. You can see that that's what displays in the database. So if you wanted to call it just something with shorthand, 2021, 22 Rego, as I've done here, you can do that. Otherwise, certainly nothing wrong with just replicating what's in the title of the form. You've also got your member types here. So member types we've essentially set up as age groups, and the age groups, as they did in the old system, they sort of dictated what, things like what prices are going to be offered to the members. But you can also have a little bit more customizability around, or flexibility around, what you display based on those member type selections. So they'll appear as selections on the front of the form, and you can choose to display, let's say, a certain question to under 13s and no one else. If you wanted to, a product or a fee could be a lower price for an under 9 as it is to an under 11, for instance. And I'll get into that sort of detail shortly. But the member types are crucial in basically determining what gets shown to each individual member. So I'll move along the top here. We'll go to products. So products are another name for what would have been called subscriptions in the old system. This is basically where you're applying your fees and where you are basically breaking that down so that each individual age group gets the right fee. What we've done here, obviously you'll see it's not quite complete, so we'll do a little bit of a walkthrough. There's going to be a state fee applicable to everyone. That's that fixed $70. And then what you will do is you'll add your center component. And for this one, we've set it up by age group. You can see we've got under 6 through to under 11. They're all the same price, and they can be different prices if you like. You can see a little bit of a summary of what settings are applied to these products. So you can see under the available to heading, the under 6 athlete is only available to under 6 athletes in the member type. So if they select an under 6 athlete member type, they'll see an under 6 athlete product and the price. It'll also grant the under 6 athlete. So when you're looking at the back end, you'll see that they get applied the member type for under 6 athlete, and you can see who the owner of the product is. So who's set up the product. Obviously there's the state body and the centre that have this form, and it's been shared down from the state body. So that means that when looking at it from the centre point of view, you won't have any of the edit functions for any of those state level assets. And that applies to products and questions as well. So it'll be grayed out from the state data, and then you can add on to that as you see fit. So to show you how this process sort of works in terms of attaching these products, what we've got up the top here is just a few options in terms of getting products onto the form. So first option here, add existing products to form. So you can add any products that you've previously used or previously set up in the system and add them directly onto the form. If they're not there, you can create a new product from scratch without jumping around into master product listings or anything like that. You can just create it and attach it directly onto the form. So we'll do that. We need to create under 12 next, so we'll do that. So under 12 athlete. Get my spelling right. You can put a description against the product as well. So if you want to explain the product a little bit more, or tell the member exactly what they're buying with this product, you can do that. That description will just appear under the product title on the rego form. Scrolling down, we'll give it a price, so you can decide this. Important to note as well that that's just going to be the center component. So obviously there's different components of each registration. The $70 goes to the state, and it might be $50 going to the center. So just keep that in mind, and that total will add up obviously at the end. The payment option. So you've got options to apply the product to the payment gateway only, which means this product can only be purchased through a live credit card payment on the form. Credit card or PayPal or any of the payment options we've got. Otherwise, you can set it to also allow manually set product as paid. So that allows you as an administrator to go and assign this product to a member. Say if they're having trouble registering, they've got bad internet or anything like that, or if they've just come in and paid by cash or check, you've got the option to apply this product directly to their record. The membership dates. So there's a couple of distinctions here to make you aware of. The membership starts from and membership ends from. That basically is going to determine the active period of the membership. So if the season proper begins on the 1st of October, for example, or around that time, and it ends, let's set it as the end of February, then that means that when a member purchases this product, they're going to have an active registration for this period of time. So in the back end, you'll see if you go into their record, they've purchased this product, but it's still September, the 30th of September. You'll see that it's an inactive or a pending registration. And then once that ticks over to the 1st of October, that's when their membership becomes active. Likewise, once that date ends, as soon as it hits March, then the membership's expired. You've also got the option to, say, start that from a registration date and make the end date a specific number of days after registration. So let's say they're active as soon as they register. Specific days after registration is 365, so that registration is active for a year. So you can control those to a pretty flexible degree. Now the grants member type option, because this is an under 12 athlete, we want to grant them the under 12 member type. So we add that. That just means that once they purchase this product, the member is going to have the under 12 athlete member type recorded against their record. And then the availability dates. So this is basically just going to trigger when the product shows on the form. So if we only want the registration period to last from July to September, for example, that means that the product is purchasable from this period of time. So as soon as it hits July, it'll show on the form. As soon as it hits October and passes this date, it'll hide itself from the form. So that can be handy for things like early bird registrations or late fees, where you want to have a period of time where the membership is actually going to be a different price for the member. So you might give a discount for people who get in early. And then you would say, create a product, give it a bit of a discounted price, and then set those dates that you want the early bird period to occur. So we'll make it active, continue on. And now we've got some display rules. So again, you've got even more flexibility here around how you show and hide the product automatically. So in this section here, we've got only show to member types. Because it's under 12, we only want that to appear for under 12s. You can do that by gender as well, so male, female. Show the product to all ages. If we select no here, then we can actually put in an age validation. So that will look at the member's date of birth, and it will say, if they're not meeting these parameters, don't show them the product. So for an under 12, we'd say they need to be 12 and the specific date as directed by the state level is the 31st of December 2022. So that means once this date comes around, they need to be 12 years old in order to purchase this product. And they can be, if it's earlier in the season and they're still 11, that's okay. It just means that by the end of the year, they need to be 12 years old. Otherwise, the product won't show to them. And that comes from their date of birth field. So we'll keep going. So we've just got the confirmation screen here. Carefully look through it, make sure everything's in order. If we're happy with that, we confirm and save, and then it's added that to the form. So the only thing we need to do now is make it mandatory. So we can do that using the arrow on the right-hand side here. So mark as mandatory and save. So that means that whenever one of these products is shown, that it's mandatory. So if you leave that blank, then the member will get the option to tick a box or leave a box unchecked. And because of the validation that we've put on there, they're only going to see one of these at a time, because they're only applicable to certain ages. So even if you make them all mandatory, they're not going to be forced to pay all these products at once. It'll just be the ones that show based on the filters that we've applied here. Now, if obviously you want a bit of a quicker way to get those products onto the form, what you can do is you can actually clone products from the product list. So if we go back to products and forms and products, I'll filter just to find all my active products. And what you can do is find the one that we've just made, the arrow on the right-hand side here. That allows us to clone the product. So that'll create a new one. And all we need to do is just change the relevant information to make that an under 13 product. That's the next one we're doing. Probably don't need to change the availability dates or anything like that unless you want to. Change the price if you need to. But really the main things make sure the title's changed. Under the assign member types, remove under 12 and add under 13. So find under 13 there. That grants them the member type under 13 athlete. And then the display rules, we can fix those up as well. Under 13. And the age validation will want to be 13 to 13 on that same date. So we save that. And because we've just made it from the master screen, all we need to do is edit that form, head into products, and we'll get our product list up here and add an existing product to the form. So you might want to just keep cloning products until you've got all the age groups you need, and then just add them straight on. Make it mandatory, and we save that. So that's how you can get all your products onto the form pretty quickly. It's just clone those products and basically go through until you hit under 17 or however many products you'd like to offer, and then add them all as existing products onto the form. So we'll roll with that for the moment. In the questions and layout section, we've got a little bit more. Obviously, this refers to the body of the form. So the body of the form being which questions you're going to ask your members. So we'll start from the top. We've got a set of fields that are standard GameDay fields. You've got a little bit of flexibility around what displays with a couple of the fields, which has obviously been set at state level. But once that's shared down to the center level, you see they're grayed out. And likewise with the questions that the state level has added onto the form. So most of the information that you want to ask, or the questions that you want to ask, is likely already been covered by Little Arts New South Wales. So you can see it's grayed out there. Some general address details, parent guardian details, and so forth. Once you get down to this section here, and this will be blank for you to start off with, you can start adding your own questions onto the form. So if you've got center related questions that you want to ask, and they might not be these ones here, I've just put a few examples on there, then you can add your own questions on there to the end. So to do that, we've got a few options. We can add an existing question. So we can see any question that you've already added into the database will appear here for any form that you edit. So you'll have a bit of a mix here between fields that we just drop in for all GameDay databases, things like occupation, medical notes, medical conditions, things you might not necessarily need or want on the form, but you've got access to them anyway. And some sport specific questions that you might have added through into the database previously. So any question that you add from scratch, you'll be able to reuse that for any scenario. So if we want to add one of those onto the form, we just click that. And you'll see it pops up as an option down there. Once we've added it, we can drag and drop that to change the order. So this is going to be the actual order that the member's going to see these questions in. What you can also do is create a new question. So new questions, you might not find what you're looking for in the existing questions. So you might want to create a completely new custom field. And like I said earlier, there's no limit to what you can do here. You can add as many custom questions as you want onto the form. So the formats you've got available here will be text field, number field. Those are pretty self-explanatory. It allows them to enter text into the field or enter a number. You've got the option to do a pick list question. So pick lists are going to be essentially a drop-down box. They're just going to be a list of responses that you can configure where the member can select one response. So if we've got an example somewhere, how did you hear about us? The responses have been added in there, and the user can select one of those responses. Multiple choice is very similar. It again allows you to configure a list of responses that they can choose, but this time it'll allow them to choose more than one. So you can have multiple options in there and say, choose any of the below that apply to you, and they can go and tick any box they want, however many boxes they want. The date field, again, pretty self-explanatory, just like a date of birth field, where they'll get a date picker to use. A checkbox, again, self-explanatory, tick a box or leave it unchecked. Terms or privacy policy, this will be a little bit different to the old system. This allows you to add any terms and conditions or any sort of agreeable policy or anything that you want them to read on the form before they register. Now, there already are some state level declarations, so that's been taken care of. But what that does is allows you to add your own terms and conditions in there if applicable. So if you want someone to read through the terms and conditions or a policy, that'll basically create that paragraph for them to read and have a checkbox that they can tick to confirm that they've read it. Okay, and the document upload question is again a new feature to this system that allows the member to upload an image file, so a proof of age or something like that, or a working with children check, generally the common ones. So you can add a document upload question, which basically gives them a browse button to click and upload a file. And there's already one on here with the proof of age, so we'll be able to see that through the live form. The last little bit of functionality here as well, the header text blocks and the paragraph text blocks. So a header text block is basically going to give you the ability to format it a little bit more, like I've done here with the medical details. Generally give it a bit of a categorization, give the questions a categorization, and as I sort of touched on earlier, you can drag and drop different questions into different parts of the form. So that's just a little presentational sort of thing that you might want to use to make it look a bit nicer. And the paragraph block is similar. That's going to give you basically just a text or a sentence that you can add onto the form, just to give a little bit more detail around whatever it might be. So here we've got the allergies question. We've got a text block saying, please provide more information in the allergies notes below. And that's not a question that they need to answer or anything like that. It's just a bit of text and a bit of messaging. So you can use that to give a bit more context around the registration system for your members. Okay. The questions themselves also have some more flexibility around whether you show them to certain individuals or not. If I expand the arrow here, each question will have firstly some help text. So what that will do is it will surface one of these little question marks, and the member can hover over that and see any text that you put into this help text section. So that's another handy little way of getting your message across. Obviously, you've got the option to make it mandatory or not. And if we expand the advanced options, this will give us the ability to hide it or show it based on certain parameters. So let's just say the allergies question, we only want to show that to maybe 12 years and over. And this can apply to any question. All we do is just make sure we've got the right member types ticked, We check if we want to apply a gender filter to that as well. So if you only want to show it to males as opposed to females. And then an age validation option as well. So you can show it to certain specific ages based on their date of birth. And anything outside that range, they won't see the question. Okay, so that's a little bit more conditional hiding and showing based on who's filling out the form. To show you a little bit more of the conditional elements, what I've done here in the very last option here, show the block, or because this is a text block, it might be a question, show the question or block only if the user answers a specific response to a specific question. So what we've done here, to give you an example, we've got the allergies field up here. We're saying, I only want to see this text if the allergies question is selected. So if the box is ticked, because it's a checkbox question, that means that by default, this will be hidden, but in the allergies question, if it's ticked, it will pop up for them. And I've done the same thing with the question here, the allergies notes. So those two components are only going to show if the user says, yes, I've got allergies. Otherwise, it's not relevant to them. So you can do a little bit more conditional formatting there. And you might have different scenarios for that. It might be something like you want to show different information to a new member as opposed to a returning member, or anything like that. So generally we'll work with a pick list field or a checkbox field where there's set options that you give them, and you can show and hide different questions based on those responses. And if you want to delete a question, you can just say remove the question. That just removes it from the form, and it'll go back into the existing questions list. So that's the questions and layout section. Probably the last thing that you need to be aware of is the messages and notifications section. So this can be, you can have different messages. So the state level can have different messages from the center level, is what I'm trying to say. Is it basically allows different messages to come through from different levels. So the state body might have their own version of this, but the center level, they can have their own version. So the first one is registration success email. What that does is it sends, as it did in the old system, it sends a confirmation email straight to the member, and you can enter the text in there and say whatever you like. I've just got a basic little sentence here. Thanks for registering to the sample center. Your next training session will be on this date, and you might put some things around next steps and what you need to do over the next few weeks, or whatever it might be. So you can see the invoice email here as well. You won't be able to edit this, but it does have all the information loaded onto it as per that registration. So in this example here, you can see the total price that's come from the rego form, the products that have been purchased, and the members that have been purchasing those products. See the price and the quantity and the amount, and then also the active kids voucher as well, if that's been used. So you get the total, and that basically tells the parent or the person registering, okay, I'm financial for both of my kids. For example, you've got 2 kids here. If it was just one member, you might have one member with multiple products. So it'll break that down accordingly. We go down to the form messaging. So the form welcome message, this is going to be a little pop-up screen which comes into play as soon as the member lands on the form. So on the first page of the form, and we'll show you the actual the form itself as well. There'll be a little pop-up that appears, and you can put whatever messaging you like on there. So it might be instructions on, you know, what sort of things you need to do as part of the registration process. It might be just a warm welcome message, something like that. Some information that you might want them to know before they register. So that'll pop up first thing, the first thing that they see. And then similar to that, the form confirmation message, that's going to be right at the end of the form. So it's going to be a pop-up again saying, thanks for registering. A little bit similar to the success email, but it won't be sent to them. It will just pop up on their screen. And you can see in this example, just a nice little thanks for registering. You'll now receive a confirmation email outlining the next steps, key dates and further information, etc. So those are just examples. You can put whatever you want in here, whatever you think is going to help your members a little bit more. You can do that. And then the last step of the actual build process is the test and publish section. So what this does is that this allows you to make the form active. So each centre will have a version of this form, obviously templated based on what the state bodies set out. But you can basically trigger the draft active or inactive statuses for your own form. And likewise with the activation dates, you can set that to a specific date. And once that date gets hit, then the form will be active. In this example, I've got it for the 8th of July. If I was to go onto the form on the 7th of July, then I would get a message saying, sorry, this rego form is not available right now. Come back on the 8th of July. Likewise with the expiry date, as soon as it passes that date, the form will go offline. So you don't need to come in here and take products off the form or deactivate things or anything like that. You can leave all of that up to the automation. And you know, if you've got registration dates that you want to leave the form open generally, you apply them here. But as I touched on before, each product's got its own activation date as well. So you can trigger products to show or hide at different times. You might have overlap with certain products. That's okay. You've got complete control over that. And you'll see the form link here as well. So the view form allows you to go through the front end form. And you can see this copy form link as well. So if you wanted to copy the URL of the form, maybe put it on your social medias or or send out an email or something like that, you can do that as well. So I'll take you through what that looks like. If we view the form. Now this will all be branded to Little Aths. As I said, this is a sample database that we're using. But what the member will see is a login screen. So it'll be a little bit different in this platform. It's based around email, obviously for added security. The username will be the email address, and that will allow them to sort of reset their password and self-manage that process. If they don't have an account, they'll need to sign up. So pretty easy, just put in the first name, last name, email address, and set a password. What that will do is that'll just send them an email and ask them to verify the email. And if they can do that, then they'll go through straight back through to the form. If there's already an account recognized, then they can just log in. So we see our welcome message come up. So that's from the state level. You can see down here where the message is coming from. It's coming from Little Athletics New South Wales. If we click next, then we can see the centre message. So we've got a different message for the centre as opposed to the state body. So what you'll see, or what the member will see, is obviously if they're when they first land on the page, they'll have the new participant option. Once they've made a few registrations and linked some members through to their account, say they're a family or something like that, they'll have a list of names that they can choose and sort of renew the registration straight to that account. Obviously, they're not going to have that many. If we go through as a new participant, for example, this is the first page, which will offer them questions. So basic information, just the name. So we'll go through. Birth date. Again, this is going to have a little bit of an influence on what shows. So if I'm registering for an under 7, my birth date's in 2015. So if we remember the age validation, as soon as it hits 31st of December 2022, we need to be 7 for the under 7 membership. So we go gender assigned at birth, enter in all the other information. And we want the under 7 athlete. Click next. You'll see that the products show there. So notice that you're only seeing one center product, even though we've got 6 or 7 applied there. You'll only ever see one center product if it's set up. If it's set up right, you'll only ever see one center product at a time. And then obviously the state fee as well. So we go through to the main body of the form. A few more details. So I'll sort of speed through this part, but the most notable things, you've got an age validation on the address. So if I look for just check my office, my old office, Burke Street, it'll call that Google Maps list of addresses and automatically apply that. So that saves people making mistakes and spelling mistakes and getting their address wrong, and you can't post to them and that sort of thing. So pretty self-explanatory stuff here. You can see the document upload file shows here as well. So that allows the member to choose a file from their computer. So this one's a proof of age. You might want to do something around working with children's or something like that. So there's a few options there. We'll keep moving down. So this one, I've applied some conditional formatting as well. So do you have a disability? If we say yes, then we get more information automatically on, asking for a little bit more information about the classified disabilities. If I select no to that, then that'll hide because that's not necessary. We don't need to ask them that question. Okay, so that's a bit of conditional formatting. Same thing with the allergies, as I touched on. We tick allergies, we'll see a little bit more information there. If we leave it unticked, then we won't. And we keep scrolling down. We've got the terms and conditions down the bottom here. So obviously they'll be able to read the declaration, tick the box, and then working with children's as well. That will download a form. So you can download that form directly from the GameDay form. Tick that if it's all good. And we click next. So you'll see a summary here for myself. See the fees that I'm paying and the total. If you want to register another person on the same session, you can do that. Just go register another person. So you might have multiple kids that you want to register. We do have more information as well to send out if you wanted to do sort of cascading discounts for certain members. So we'll address that as well, because I'm sure that's probably a burning question as well for some of you. And when we send out the sort of information pack, we'll include steps around that. But at the moment, we're sort of just focusing on the single membership setup. So if I'm a single member, just want to pay for my under 7 athlete membership, then I can do that. Pay with a credit card or by PayPal. So in the credit card option, we've also got the ability to pay by Apple Pay or Google Pay. caveat to that is that you need to be using an Apple device to see Apple Pay, which at the moment I'm not. So I'll just see a credit card and a Google Pay option. And the accepted cards are Visa and MasterCard as well, just to clarify that for anyone wondering. So, and that's the end of the process. Once obviously the card payment has gone through, or whatever payment method they choose, then that will go through to your database. So I'm going to head back to the back end, jump into memberships and members. We'll see a list of members here. So if I look at my own record here, we can see the information that's come through and been stored against my account. And we'll see the organization history as well. So the history of, if we open this up, the financial status, what member types are available, and what memberships have been, and what memberships being products. So what products have been applied. These are pending at the moment because I didn't actually make a live payment. So because that's set to allow members to manually be assigned that product, and it's assigned it to my record, but it's not active yet because I haven't paid for it. You can also see events history and some more member activity as well. So that's things like custom question responses, which you can edit. And what you can also do is up in the top section here, we go through parent guardian, different categories. You can also actually add a document directly onto their record. So if they've provided that to you by other means or outside of the system, you've got that ability to add the document. And the add registration button here as well, just to touch on that, that allows you to manually assign those products. Okay, so if we choose we'll choose the under 10. Now this is not going to take into account any other validation or anything like that. So you can override the sort of display rules and eligibility rules as an administrator. But what you can do there is, if you need to assign it manually to their record, you can mark it as paid or process the payment now, which will send you through to a live gateway, similar to what we just saw on the form. So if you've got their credit card over the phone and they're happy to provide those details, then you can process a payment directly through the back end. So that's really the main things I wanted to touch on. The other probably important thing to note is the reporting. So you've got different types of reports as well if you want to run them, transactions, dashboards, and things like that. So any dashboard is going to be a visual type of report. Again, once we get more data into our systems, then our center dashboards are going to start filling up and being more insightful. You've also got tabular reports. We want to run an advanced member report, for example. Then we can see our list of members that have come through and the information they've provided, and that can be exported to CSV. So that's probably a lot quicker a process than what most of you might be used to in terms of creating export templates and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's the main. That's mainly what I wanted to go through in this webinar. As I said, we'll be putting together some more resources around training. Obviously, the chat's going off here, so we'll collate these questions as well. My head hurts. Yeah, I don't blame you, Karen. It's a lot to take in, but we'll try and make sure that we address all these questions. There's a lot of them. address those in a bit of an FAQ scenario without referring to the Brisbane Olympics and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, that sort of wraps up the session. Again, if you've got any feedback or anything like that, feel free to send it through to us. I know some of you have already started to send that through, either to Trish or I know Cam's been in touch with a few of you. So we'll be taking that sort of feedback on board. And we'll make sure we send this recording of the session around, along with a few other resources. We've got some step-by-step guides and some videos to go through this specific process with you that are contextualized towards Little Athletics. So expect sort of early next week to be receiving some more tangible assets that will help you to actually to get set up.
Thanks, Rory. Lots of information, as we can see in the chat. Really appreciate your time, and your chats haven't gone unnoticed. I have been watching, and sorry, it's Rebecca speaking. I'll just take back the screen, Rory.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's go. See if this works. Okay, well, your chat hasn't gone unignored or ignored. There's lots of very similar questions, and very much questions that we can definitely answer. I think by also answering them within the chat, we might lose, some people will not get the information they also need. So we're definitely going to collate the questions that you've got listed there. I know that there's some very standout questions I was dying to answer. I'm sure Trish Bright's there wanting to answer everything, but if we can put it all in one document and circulate it to everybody, I think that's definitely the best way forward. I know there was the questions of wanting to touch on the family discounts and also the voucher where you can put the active kids in. That is all there. What you saw tonight was just it's not complete. It will be ready by the 2nd and 1st of August. I've got Trish will ensure us that will happen, and Rory. So if you want to keep putting your questions in the chat box, feel free to do so. We've got 118 online. If you do want to ask an outstanding question that you need an answer to tonight, then feel free to pop your hand up. Okay, I've got Therese. You've got your hand up there. Is the question still relevant? Jeff, yes, the video will definitely be posted along with the FAQs that we compile.
Beck, I think Teresa's hand went up.
Sorry, Beck, I missed that.
I think Teresa's hand went up early in the meeting and it's just still sitting there.
Oh, thank you. Andrew, definitely, Trish has been working on the front pages. It's very similar to what we've gone through in the past. Trish has spent a fair few months working through this, and she's probably the best person to be able to explain. Very similar, however, I think the end user with the members registry are going to find it much easier when they jump on. The questions, yes, it is a new platform, and I do believe there will be some information that existing members will have to put in there. Maybe they, as in updating their proof of ID and things like that. Again, Trish will be able to confirm that in an FAQ that will come out shortly. Absolutely, Robin. Again, your trialists can be, as long as we've got their details and we know that they're covered for insurance purposes, then that'll be fine. They won't have to register online. I probably shouldn't answer too many of these questions. Trish, I know you're online there, so if you want to jump on.
Yeah, I did email to the people that it'll be either GameDay or myself. We'll have a listing of all the questions that have gone here, and we will send it to all the participants, all the questions and the answers that apply, so everyone can see what's going on. If you haven't already received any information from me, please email me at admin who the person is that's going to be responsible, so I can add them into your database. You will receive an automatic email once that's done. Active Kids Voucher was the big one. Yes, you add that in before you even add your second child. Unfortunately, as it's a new system, yes, families will have to add in all the details, but they will be linked after the whole season is started. Also, GameDay has promised me that all your old registration fees that are listed, once the season starts, they'll be able to delete all them afterwards. So try and not use anything that you had last year. Please use what I have already put up, and then you add your own products. So again, if you've got any issues, just email me, or you can email support at GameDay and they'll be able to assist you as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Jeff's got his hand up.
You want me to speak the question?
If you're welcome to, Jeff, or you can take me back through the chat. It's up to you.
It's off the top of the screen now. It's just the current form allows an athlete to be in more than one age group. In fact, you can be in all of them. That couldn't be by intention. That must be some kind of error or oversight. But when Rory ticks the member type, he could have ticked all of them. At least that's the case with the form I have access to.
Yeah, I think it was you, Jeff, that sent the email to Cam earlier today. So, yeah, we're talking that through as we speak. So, yeah.
Guilty as charged. Yeah.
Yeah. So we appreciate that sort of feedback. So we want to know any of that sort of stuff that that might be worrying you, or that you might just need clarity on. And we'll make sure we include all of that in our FAQs.
I'm just worried that if there are loopholes like that, spurious data will be collected in the database, and it may cause unknown hassles later on.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. So yeah, we'll look at that. You know, whether we need to tighten something up there, and we'll do some testing around that. But yeah, we've definitely got that feedback, and we're having a look at it as we speak.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Matt from Hornsby.
Yeah, g'day. I just got a quick question. I've had a bit of a play that's pretty straightforward, so I'm reasonably comfortable. The only clarification I have is there's an existing database that sits in the background. So I was able to find a few of my daughter in there. But when I went through the trial process, I understand I re-enter her new details. Does that overwrite the existing database that sits in? Or the only concern I have is we're going to have two kids with the same name. It's the same child, an old sort of database and the new one. Will that sort of seamlessly mesh together, override, or what's the story behind that?
Yeah, Matt, it's a good question. It's something I forgot to touch on, but that will link based on the first name, last name, and date of birth. So if that matches up with what's in the database, then the new data will obviously go across into the existing record. So you're not going to have a duplicate for every member.
Perfect.
There is certain information they'll need to fill out again because it's a new system, as Trish mentioned.
Yep.
But yeah, no worries there. That'll just recognise based on what's in the database.
Okay, excellent. That'll make it easier when we do reports, so I don't have to filter out.
Exactly.
Kids, but that's fine. Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks. We'll take a last question from Tara, Rory, but we will get everyone, if you're still online, if you've got any questions, pop it in the chat, and then I'll save the chat function, and we'll anticipate to get something out to you tomorrow. I think I'm not sure with the recording, I'll have to check on that, but definitely an FAQs from the chat function will get out to you. So Tara, if you're still online, have you got your question?
Yeah, hi, sorry, it's Sophie using my daughter's Zoom because I have limited access to stuff. Anyway, no, you're all right. Hello. Look, I did put it in the chat, but I'm really concerned about, I'm aware that this GameDay used, OzTag used a GameDay system, and I'm quite aware that there were issues with the whole registration process with the GameDay when they started the registration for OzTag, but there was an issue, big issue with PayPal throwing people out when they were paying. and they've got their active kids voucher in there, and then they go back in to pay and it doesn't accept it. Has all that been fixed? I know it's not the same, but it's going to be potentially a similar issue if it hasn't been fixed when it comes across to us. That's all. I know it's a different sport.
Yeah, so the first thing is that OzTag are actually on our passport system. So that's a different database, which is more geared towards comps. But either way, that I wasn't aware of that personally, but we don't have any reports of that happening in GameDay. And if it did happen a little while ago, then it will have been resolved by now, even in the passport system. So, yeah, we're not aware of that being an issue at the moment.
Okay, because I had several parents, as a manager of a team, I had several parents phoning saying, I've been thrown out and how do I fix it? I've gone back in and it says that they've accepted my active kids voucher, but I can't pay because they're telling me to pay the full amount, even though it just ended up sort of exponentially causing the registration process to blow out.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, one thing that we've put into the GameDay system as well is a timer. You may have seen on the registration form, there's a timer which actually counts down to actually enforce the member to finish the registration in that time. So it actually, it's a little bit of, I suppose, validation around having people just sit on their browser and their session times out, because that can happen in registration forms, is that they can leave it sitting for an hour and come back to it and they will have been kicked out, or they won't be able to proceed or something like that. So that's why we've implemented the timer. I think it's a 20-minute timer, which counts down and lets them know that within that time period they need to finish the registration.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rory. Really appreciate your time. And I think, as someone said, that their head hurts, and it's a lot of information to take in. But I think as everyone works through the process, it'll all sort of light bulb moments will happen. Thank you for everyone attending, and I encourage you all to jump on Friday evening session if you can. Again, all sessions are being recorded and will be distributed and placed possibly on our website. More information to come. Again, we'll compile a Q&As document, which could possibly be quite long after tonight's session, but it's fantastic having everyone, really put their hand up and ask the questions. So I do appreciate it. Feel free to give us a call. We are all working remotely. The office number is still available. However, if Trish is on the phone, I believe it does go to a message bank. We're doing our best to get back to everybody through these trying times. Again, thank you. I look forward to seeing you all on Friday. Thanks for your time and have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rory.
Thank you.